Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another episode of Small Town Hauntings. And I'm co-host Nancy.
Yeah, you almost forgot who you were.
Oh, well, I forgot what I was. Not my name. I do remember my name. I'm the co-host and sarcastic sidekick. Sure.
And I'm Bella, the host, and her cousin. And I'm also a psychic medium. So, welcome to our series of the Warren cases.
Yes, this is the Warren cases, and this episode we'll be doing the Amityville Horror, Haunted or Hoax.
I actually really interested in this. I really did a really deep dive in here.
There you go. So you'll be talking mostly on this one.
Yeah.
All right. So if anybody's not familiar with the Amityville Horror,
I don't know what rock are you living under?
Right, because if not, you'd be at least watching the movie at some point, right? Mm-hmm. So a family flees. So just to summarize, a family flees their dream home just after 28 days, claiming demonic forces chase them out. A priest is slapped by unseen hands. A room bleeds, and the spirits of a murdered family linger in the walls, or so the story goes. But was it ever real?
Dun, dun, dun. All right, so this is the case file we're going to go through. The location is 112 Ocean Avenue Drive, Amityville, Long Island, New York. They actually recently changed the address because people were harassing them so much. The owners now actually legally changed the address. It's no longer 112 Ocean Drive. So if you look for that, you're not going to be able to Ocean Avenue Drive. You're not going to be able to get that.
But it wouldn't be hard with the internet nowadays
to
find the real one. So
yeah, but I guess I don't know. They petitioned the town to change it.
There's even songs that mention 112 Ocean.
So I think that's why. So they actually changed the address. So it's no longer 112. I think it's like 138 or something. So it's like what? But and they've changed the look of it too. But regardless. That's what it is. It's a Dutch colonial. The house details was a Dutch colonial home, 5 bedrooms, iconic quarter circle windows, and one very dark past. Which they've actually changed the quarter circle windows because they look like eyes.
It really
so
did.
Yeah, so they've completely changed the way the facade of the house looks now,
that's good,
and including the address.
I can understand that.
Yeah, trying to get away from all of that stuff. So the timeline is November 13th, 1974. Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr. murders 6 members of his family as they slept.
Wow.
December 1975, the Lutz family, George, Kathy, and the 3 kids move in. January 1976, the Lutz family flee the house after 28 days, claiming violent supernatural activity. So we're going to start off with the DeFeos first. A real-life massacre. So Butch DeFeo murdered his parents and the 4 siblings with a rifle. This is legit. This is legit. Yeah. This really happened. Later, he claimed voices told him to do it, but his story changed many times. This event is not paranormal, but it set the stage for what came next.
All right. And then the Lutz family moved in, like you said, in 1975, right? Mm-hmm. So the Lutz family, their claims are unseen forces lifting Kathy off the bed, George waking up at 3:15 a.m. every night. That's the time of the DeFeo murders. Green slime oozing from the walls, cold spots, foul odors, disembodied voices, pig-like demonic creature.
I don't understand.
Jody, seen by their daughter. That's the name?
That's the name of the pig-like demonic creature. Was named Jody. Well, pretty unassuming.
Yeah, I know.
Who are you? A pig-like demon? What's your name? Jody. Just call me Jody.
Call me Jody. That'll be the next Karen.
Yes.
A room hidden behind shelves, painted blood red. Wow. Uh-huh. Kathy levitating, George seeing ghostly faces in the fireplace, and a priest reportedly that was slapped by an invisible force while blessing the home. Wow.
Sometimes I can get behind that one. Shut up, Padre. Okay, so this is the Warrens' involvement. The Warrens entered the case after the Lutz left the house. March 1976, they conducted an overnight investigation with a full team of psychics, photographers, and reporters. Lorraine claimed the house was infested with diabolical energy, that she sensed something evil had taken possession of the land itself. One of the most famous photos from their investigation shows a boy with glowing eyes peeking from a doorway, later scrutinized.
Well, glowing eyes could be like red eye from a camera, right?
Yeah, it wasn't even a boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go on that later. Then. Okay,
Yeah,
let's go with however, this could be a demonic house and a murder house could be good, but let's see.
This is the good part of the things that we really know.
Okay. So the house had an authentic violent history, obviously with the DeFeo murders, and how somebody could literally murder 6 people in their family.
I'll tell you later.
Yeah. Multiple investigators documented some strange phenomena, temperature drops, audio anomalies. The Lutzes took polygraph tests in the late 70s and passed. Wow. The Warrens strongly believe it was one of the most dangerous houses they've ever entered.
So this is the bad. The boy with the white glowing eyes photo was likely a member of the camera crew.
Oh.
There's no physical evidence, no slime, no room with blood red, no demon pig named Jody. The Lutzes sold their story within months. It became a book and then a film franchise. The neighbors and later residents never reported supernatural activity. Butch DeFeo later said the Lutzes made it all up for money.
Wow. Yeah. Serious. And here is the ugly. So in 1979, attorney William Weber, who represented Butch DeFeo, claimed he helped the Lutzes fabricate the story to sell a book. The house became a media circus, movies, TV shows, and lawsuits. The Lutz children later gave conflicting accounts about what actually happened. George Lutz was reportedly involved in occult practices, which some believe either invited or inspired the story.
So the closing thoughts is Amityville is the ultimate paranormal paradox. True tragedy twisted into a pop culture juggernaut. Whether the house was haunted or the story just sold well, it blurred the lines between real, evil, and manufactured fear. And for the Warrens, it was the case that launched a legacy and 1,000 questions. So other than what I've done a really, really deep dive because I really wanted to look into the Amityville Horror and how much of if it was really haunted or if it was really a hoax. And a lot of the stuff we didn't mention on here is that it went in George Lutz. They keep calling the Lutzes. Kathy and her children really didn't have anything to do with it. It was George. George was the one who was really into that. He was also practicing a couple of different things. So if there was things that were in the house that they sensed in the house, it was actually brought in with George.
Okay. Makes sense. If he was practicing in the occult.
It was practicing in cult. But what they really think the theory was, we'll start with the DeFeos first. The DeFeos was, the father was very abusive. Butch DeFeo was very, very abusive. Butch Jr. was very much into, or his first name was Ronald Jr., right? Ronald?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So Ronnie DeFeo. They were really he was really into drugs. Like he was that's all he wanted to do was get high. So his dad owned a car dealership along with his grandfather, along with his father, and the father was from his father-in-law, and that's where he had him work often. So he would go deliver cars here and there, but he hated his father. His father was physically abusive to the children, is physically abusive to everybody. They originally said that the way the murders were happening and the way the house was fought and how nobody actually heard outside the neighbors, not one person heard the shots. And this is supposed to be like the gun that was supposed to have done it is like something gauge shotgun. It gives a lot of noise.
Right, it doesn't have a silencer.
It doesn't have a silencer on it. And not one person heard the shots. None of the neighbors. And the neighbors are not very far away. So they also say that the theory that really happened was the person that really wanted to kill her father, they had cooked up this plan, was the daughter. I can't remember what the oldest daughter's name was. She's not.
I don't think she's listed on
She's listed on here. But this is the theory that they came up with. She was the one who wanted to get rid of her father and her mother because the mother was also abused by the father, but the father would was very abusive with the children, and the mother wouldn't do anything about it. I mean, granted, she was also being abused herself.
Yeah,
he was a bit of a bully. The girl fell in love with the guy. She wanted to move away to Florida with him. Parents refused. She was like, I think 17, 18. Parents refused. So she decided that, you know what, we're going to take them out. Wow. And the one thing that they argued about was she wanted to kill the little boys, and Ronald Jr., Butch, did not. It's
Why
like,
would
no.
she want to kill her siblings as well?
That's what he asked her. And she said, because how would you, how were we supposed to, they would feel bad, you know, being parentless, because it would be, both their parents would be dead. So like they were young. The kids were like, I think one was 8 and one was 9. But this was her thinking. It was like, you know, they're not going to be having a good life if their mom and dad are gone. So they have to go too.
Like a sacrifice?
Butch was on board with killing the father and the mother, but he wasn't on board with killing the siblings.
Wow.
The day that they were supposed to happen, there was actually 3 people involved. It was actually supposedly Butch's friend, and her. So that's why none of them were still in, like, that's why, because it just didn't make sense. Like, the mother, the father are both in bed. So not one of them woke up when they got shot. And then the kids who also got shot didn't wake up with the gunshot, didn't hear it. Like, what kind of silencer is this?
Yeah.
So, and the fact that she was found in the hallway shot. So she wasn't in bed. That's the thing. People all think that she was in bed as well. No, she was in the hallway.
Okay.
So what they think happened is, this is what Butch has said a couple different stories, but this is the one that kind of makes the most sense. He got really, really high. So he was originally supposed to be the one that did the killing, but he couldn't. So his friend came over. So his friend she went into the bedroom. I think he went into the parents' bedroom and shot both parents.
Okay.
Right? And then she went into the brothers' little kids' room and shot the little brothers. And when he came out and he saw that she had shot the little brothers, out of like, he went into a rage and shot her.
Okay.
And then he ran and threw because they later on found the guns in like
How did they
thing
not
of
hear
water.
the shots? Were there silences involved?
It wasn't the guns that they said that he used wasn't what was used.
Oh, okay.
Because they're saying that he used a shotgun, and there was no way, because those ones would be like louder.
Like, unless they used pillows as silencers.
Because you're thinking about it, there was 4 people. That would have been 4 shots. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And they said that it wouldn't have been able to have just one person do that. So they believed there was like more than one person that did it, which would have been the 2 of them, and then her. So then they said that they found that his friend was the one who took the guns and threw it behind the house, kind of thing, because they found it later on. So
didn't really hide them all.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing. And then his grandfather had like a mafia connection to New York. Yeah. So when his grandfather showed up, said to him, what happened? The police overheard him telling what happened. Like Butch telling his grandfather exactly what happened. And his grandfather's like, you're going to take the blame for this. You're going to take it. Because he's the only one who survived. And so they heard the grandfather said, no, you're not going to take your sister down. Like, your sister's not.
Oh, to blame the sister.
To blame the sister, because apparently, according to him, the sister is the one who did the most. He said he only killed her.
Why would the grandfather agree to? Why would he want that though?
Well, because he's like, you're not going to be taking because you're the fuck up or the mess up in this thing. You're not the one that's going to be. You're not going to drag your sisters through the mud. So you're
like the black sheep.
Yeah, he's black sheep. So you're going to take this. This is going to be you. And he did. He originally confessed to it.
Wow.
And then he changed his story, and then he changed it again, and then he changed it again. So what happened when the Lutzes came in? Everything was still there, and his attorney this Weber guy, was trying to get Ronnie off, and he said. So he approached George Lutz and says, "Hey, how about if we do like this whole thing with the ghost thing? Because I guess he had heard or whatever that trying to prove that." To go to court and try to prove that the ghosts were alive instead, and he said to him, like, why don't you say that the place is haunted, so that way we can get you some money and it would help to get Ron out of jail. So George agreed to it, unbeknownst to Kathy.
Okay.
So Kathy really wasn't on it. She didn't really know a whole lot about it. So all this stuff, because if you really think about it, like when you start reading some of the stuff, Kathy really didn't. Kathy used to take medication to go to sleep. So a lot of the stuff that she's saying is because Georgia told her.
Right.
So some of the interviews, you go back and you read it, it was like George was the one who was really driving them every day.
First person account.
No. So even the stuff that was happening to her, like her hovering and stuff, it was like George that was saying it.
True enough.
Right?
Yeah, she doesn't really know she was levitating.
No. So she didn't really come out with a lot of stuff. And even the kids, when they started talking about it afterwards, none of them liked George, and they all said crap about what kind of a person he was and this and that, and never really said anything about the mother. So all this stuff was made up. So they, over a bottle of wine, even the attorney said it, over a bottle of wine, they came up with this cockamamie story, and that's what it was. Because George, they left the house. First of all, they couldn't afford the house. They bought the house knowing they couldn't afford it. So it was something that was going to help them out. They thought they were going to be able to get help with that.
Oh, get money from the books.
Yeah, and everything else. And then they got pissed off because the attorney Weber screwed him out of money. So that's why.
What, he didn't
get as much as he should have. So there was like some
the attorney.
Yeah, the attorney. Yeah,
okay.
Was Ron and everything else. So that there was a lot. There was different layers on this. In the end, Amityville Horror. There was no horror. There was no. This house is not haunted.
No paranormal.
There's no paranormal, not to the level that the Warrens said it was. Because, I mean, Lorraine went in and says, this is the most haunted house I've ever been in. There's demons everywhere. She tends to say that a lot about a lot of different places.
So, again, you're thinking it's more for publicity purposes?
I think it was something that she was
career?
bolstering, whatever. Because there was different people. Like, even George Lutz had his friends go in there and to go get some stuff for the family, and the friends were like, yeah, we were in the house for a while, like we never saw anything, we never sensed anything, there was nothing there, house was fine.
I wonder how the current people that live there,
the current people before the people that are living there now, the people after that, the people that bought the house after the Lutzes,
okay.
They lived there for years. They lived there for like 15 years. Not a problem.
Yeah,
the only problem they had was people coming by the house trying to take pictures. And then whoever it was there passed, and then they sold it to these people. Again, not a problem. The house, when the house was up for sale, you could actually look at the houses. It's beautiful inside. They redone it and everything else. Not an issue. So from my perspective as a medium, anytime I've gone into a house that has something like demonic like this, there's nobody that is able to stay there. There's nobody. Right. The energy is so heavy that there would be nobody would be able to ever live in that house. That house would actually have turnover quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And you tend to see that with certain houses. They'll have turnover quite a bit. Or after a while, they tend to set themselves on fire. It's almost like a cleansing. They will set themselves on fire. But a lot of times there's always a turnover. People will come in, they'll be there for like 6 months, maybe a year, and then they're out.
They just don't feel right.
Yeah, they don't feel right. Something's not right. They're not able to settle, especially if it's like when you're talking about demons and things like that. So those lower energies. This Amityville Horror wasn't. And it's been debunked by quite a few people. And including the lawyer that came out and said that they made it up.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he wouldn't implicate himself into some like legal issue because he said he made it up.
He made it. No, it was made up. There was nothing there. No, it was a story. They wrote it in the book. They thought they were going to be able to get Ron less time. He never did. He ended up actually dying in jail. He changed his story. He lost a lot of credibility because he changed his story quite a few times.
Well, if he was truly high at the time, he probably doesn't really remember every single detail of what happened that night.
Yeah, so first he was like, yes, it was haunted. I heard voices, then it wasn't. Yeah. Then I had this, then I had that. Somewhere in there's a truth. And I think it was the very first time what he was telling his grandfather, because it had just happened, that was probably the most truthful thing. That was a truthful thing. And then after that, it just became pure BS. And it was just to sell books and things.
Made for a good movie, I guess.
Well, the fact that George Lutz continued on this, I mean, Kathy ended up getting cancer. I believe she passed away from that. She got sick after the fact.
Is George still alive?
George passed away, George has passed already as well. But he was the only one that kept pushing that story. Kathy never really went out and promoted that again. George continually did. continually did. And the kids have since then have come out and said different things.
Actually, did George and Kathy even make it as a marriage for a long time? Or
No,
after
after that, I this is only my perspective. I think when Kathy finally decided to ask some questions of George and got the answers, I think she probably was just like, I can't believe that this has happened. She decided
like respect for
she lost respect, and they got divorced not that long after they left. But yeah,
that's what I thought I had heard.
They weren't still together. So
crazy that something could turn into such a big ball of.
Yeah. So this is like the case that the Warrens really made them. Is the Amityville Horror.
Was it the Amityville?
It was Amityville.
Annabelle too. I mean,
Annabelle did, but Annabelle's only really become really big after the fact. This is the one that really. This one, actually, there's been 3 cases that really were the ones that kind of put them on the map, and that they were really excited, and it's the one they kind of always went with. And I believe that, Lorraine probably did believe that there was demons and stuff there, but there was a lot of things, like the picture of the glowing eyes. That wasn't a child. That was actually, and the guy that was in the picture said it was him.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, he was sitting on the stairs. He goes, that was me. He goes, that wasn't a small child. And she was like saying it was a small child.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of different things that debunked it.
So you wonder if we just made up all for money, as they say, right?
I don't, she claims to be a clairvoyant, which is a psychic, but she always says that she's a clairvoyant. That's what she always says. And I don't know what she feels or things, but I don't know. I don't know if she just went along with, I've heard different things about Ed. I've heard he's a bully. I don't know.
I always remember interviews with Lorraine, like watching interviews. I always thought she seems like a nice lady.
She seemed like I'm sure she is.
She was.
Yeah,
She's not passed, right?
Yeah. There's been different accounts and things like that I've heard about the Warrens. But I've also heard that Ed was, rest in peace. But I've heard that Ed was quite a bit a bully.
Oh. Wow.
So whether or not that Lorraine felt that she had to go along with what the husband said, I don't know.
Well, that's kind of sad to hear, because I like the Warrens.
I did too. It wasn't until I started looking at the cases like through a medium eyes that I was just like, it just doesn't make sense. Energetically, it doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't really make sense. It just, some of the stuff didn't.
Yeah, I guess the fact that there's been other families that lived in the house since then and nobody's ever experienced any issues seems odd. Because if you're saying it's the most haunted place I've ever been to, like the blood is soaked into the dirt type of thing.
Like the whole thing, the slime coming down the walls, and like there's just so many different things that were just so fabricated. It just really, there's, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what Lorraine sensed there. I've never been to the Amityville house, so I don't know. But the fact that it's had some residents there, and they all say that they've never ever felt anything.
And lived there for years.
The fact that the neighbors, after these murders, not one of the neighbors actually heard any gunshots. So there's a lot of loopholes. Will we ever figure out what the real story is? Probably not.
No.
This is, I think, what you've heard here is probably as close as you're probably going to get.
Yeah, probably. But if any of you have actually visited the Amityville house, which is quite possible, because they have people visit there all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, let us know. Or if you have your own scary stories of haunted houses that you've been to, send it to our mail at Small Town Hauntings. What I was going to say there.
Smallville.
Small Town Hauntings at Outlook.com. And also find us on Facebook, also Small Town Hauntings. And please like or share our page so you can share all our interesting findings with everybody else.
Yep. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode on the Warren Files in this series. And in the meantime, stay spooky.
Stay spooky.